Welcome to the Edition Wars podcast, where we take a deep dive into the mechanics and play styles of all of the editions of our favorite game. We look at what worked, what didn't work, what led to better games, as well as what didn't. And we talk about it all. In this episode, we are going to discuss the 3rd edition, or 3.5 edition, of D&D, and with a specific look at Unearthed Arcana, which is a book that was released in what year?
February 2004.
Okay, so pretty late in the cycle, right? I mean, mid-cycle maybe.
So 3.5 came out in 2003, yeah? So it was really about a year into 3.5.
I just mush 3 and 3.5 together, so I always think the year 2000. So yeah, but you are correct. So, and this sultry voice that you are hearing, other than my own, is my co-host Brandis Stoddard. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here. We haven't gotten to record in sort of a hot minute, so it's very nice to be talking to you again.
Yeah, you as well.
The lifespans of 3.0 and 3.5 always stick in my head really easily because 3.0 ended just as I was getting out of college. And so we sort of played out my college campaign, it ended, and then the very next thing I ran was 3.5. Right? Okay. And so all I have to do is remember the year I graduated from college, which is fairly easy.
Sure.
You know, so the whole concept of an Unearthed Arcana episode is one that I pitched to you sometime back, not really knowing that it was ever going to be able to happen because I couldn't find my copy. And then my very good friend and show listener, Jeffrey Fortier, tracked down a copy and picked it up for me.
Oh, nice.
So I have him to thank for the fact this episode's able to happen, and all of you have him to blame for what's about to happen.
Well, I, just for the audience's notion, I never owned this book originally, but because Brandis suggested that we talk about this and suggested it had a lot of good ideas. Now, don't get me wrong, I had seen the book and I had heard of some of the specific kind of wild stuff that was in here, but I never actually owned my own copy, so I never had the pleasure of it sitting on my shelf. So what I did in order to prep for this episode was I went over to our friendly DMs Guild and I downloaded the PDF. So that is available for everyone. If you don't have it or you can't find your copy, that's one way to get it.
Now, in all fairness, I only said that it had a lot of ideas.
Yes. No,
the quality is a separate argument.
True. Yes.
Some of them I really like, and I really want to figure out a way to sort of re-explore and bring into 5th in some alternate way. And some of them I don't feel the same way about.
Right. Well, I think it's a fair. I think the tone of the book is set right at the very beginning. The very first line of the introduction is warning in bold. Warning: get ready to drink from the fire hose.
There you go.
And I think that's because this book is just cram-packed full of ideas.
Yep.
Literally. And they don't even, it's not a book that you're going to pick up and use as I'm going to implement. I mean, you could, I suppose, but you're not necessarily going to pick this up and say, I'm going to implement every single thing in here.
That's literally impossible. They're self-contradictory in a lot of cases.
Well, but I'm just saying, like you, it's not even something that would seem like a good idea when you look at the table of contents, right?
Right. Yeah.
You don't look at it and say, oh, this is a cohesive book about the planes, or this is a cohesive book about about fighters or the martial classes. This is a wide-ranging treatise on how you could change your game in various different ways.
Yep. And different ways to approach races, by biome. It's the very first thing that shows up here, and that's not for every campaign.
Right.
It's an open question what campaign it's for in some cases.
Yes, that's true.
And so just all kinds of stuff goes on here. And so that's a big part of why I'm so excited about this. It's a great example of getting to watch people think out loud, and in much the same way as the Unearthed Arcana documents that WotC drops nowadays, there is a lot of just observing a thought process in motion that appeals to me very deeply. In addition to, hey, here's a bunch of designs that frankly we don't think are ready for prime time, but you might do something with. There's a ton of sidebars in this book. I mean, in the table of contents, there are more sidebars than sections. And it's just
Right.
because they know you're going to want to search the book by sidebars. That's a reasonable way to use this book. And that's unusual, but pretty cool.
Yeah. So let me step back for a second, and because I am not the third edition aficionado, I am very much knowledgeable in just about every other edition, but third is my weak point in terms of knowledge.
Sure.
So let me ask you a question about the design process in third edition and the playtest process in third edition. Was a book like this actually playtested, or was it more like where what you're saying about the UA that's released now for 5th edition, where they really are just saying, look, this is playtest stuff. This is sort of what we're thinking. Play with it, break it, fix it, be ready to tell us what you think about it, and we're going to eventually maybe mold some of this into something usable in a published book, but probably not for the vast majority of it, but just so that it's out there, here it is. That's not what this book is, right? Was this book playtested?
Well, so a couple of things about that. One, in the 2000s, in the noughts, public design did not work the same way. WotC's public-facing personas worked at all of this differently, and so I don't know. Even as a fan who read everything, I don't know.
Okay.
Another thing, playtesters are credited in the credits, so I assume they playtested something.
Yeah.
I mean,
but it seems to me like all these playtesters are WotC employees.
Sure, yeah. It doesn't mean it was ever publicly playtested, but that they hired people to playtest, sure. Like, well, not hired people specifically to playtest, but had people on payroll who were playtesting, sure. Right. And it probably wouldn't be too difficult to go on to Twitter and get 2 seconds of James Wyatt's time to tell you about the process. Frankly,
sure.
It became an interesting conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to, in my mind, right? Because that will change a little bit. It would change how I receive this information, right? It's sort of like, it's pretty well known that in 4th edition there was a humongous amount of errata, and part of the reason was because they had such a stringent release or stringent's the wrong word. They had such a punishing release cycle.
Yeah, for sure.
That they didn't have time, even if they used only in-house playtesters.
For sure.
So there was a list of errata as long as your arm. And that's kind of a sticking point. So I was just wondering, like, in this sort of in the year after 3.5, right? Obviously, there was enough sentiment within the company that they thought there needed to be a 3.5 edition. Okay,
clearly, yeah.
So what? I'm just trying to wrap my head around, like, the context of this book coming into existence is really what it is. With full knowledge that it's not like you were an employee there or something, so you don't actually. Right?
Right, for sure. So my impression is very much that this is, like, in addition to just being a toolbox of weird ideas, it's also, hey, so we swept up the cutting room floor, and this was the coolest stuff from that. Like, we saw what cream rose to the top from the cutting room floor milk, and here you go. And let's see if I can make that metaphor a little more tortured and or gross.
Yeah.
But I don't know their process, and I haven't ever tracked anyone down to ask about that. But I should totally do that just to find out what they say.
Yeah, just to see what you get.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the book now. I know you were starting that already, but I needed to reset my context.
No, that's fine. So right, there are basically 6 chapters of different kinds of ideas in here, and so we may not get through all of them tonight. Even going at a fair clip, just thinking of how we handled, I don't know,
everything else
Christmas.
we have ever done.
Well, sure. Usually we get through a whole edition of something, but we're also not doing a single book.
Right, that's true. So just for the audience's sake, we are taking a deep dive into this. This isn't going to be a 10-minute review of the best things we thought were in this book. This is a deep dive. So just so you know, it's probably going to be 2 episodes. Maybe 3.
Bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for them.
Shut up.
Hey, man. Just being real about it. All right. So yeah. Like, I know what my favorite thing in the book is, because it's the thing that stuck with me and has always brought my mind back to this book. So there's that. I also know some of the things
that is.
Okay, so that's jumping way on ahead, but the thing I've always loved in this is the generic classes section, which is a heck of a name for something to be my favorite, but gonna live my truth, I guess.
So we're talking about 76 pages into the book, then.
Yep. And so the concept of this is that it's D&D but with only 3 classes. If you stripped it all down to just 3 classes, here you go. And I mean, that's a default state sort of for NPC classes, because in 3.0 and 3.5 there are class progressions for NPCs that are less powerful and stripped down from PC classes, right? You have your warrior, your expert, and your adept. Well, what if you bulk those up a tiny bit, a tiny bit, and made those the chassis of the whole class system, and everything else springs forth from that? That's intensely appealing to me. So you have the expert, the spellcaster, and the warrior, right? Spellcaster instead of adept, but what can you do?
Yeah.
The warrior is about indistinguishable from the fighter. Pro tip: it's a lot of feats. The real distinguishing thing is that you might put your good save in something other than fortitude, and we're done. That's it. That's the difference.
Yeah, your good save at first level is +2. At 20th level, it's +12.
Right.
And your BAB is 15, 10, 5 because you get 3 attacks.
Wait.
Is that right?
No, we're talking about if we're talking about the warrior, then it's 20, 15, 10, 5.
Sorry, I was looking at the expert.
Yeah. So anyway,
but that is the number of attacks, right? So the expert is 15, 10, 5. So that's 3 attacks. So even the expert gets 3 attacks. Okay.
Well, and that's standard for the 3/4 BAB progression.
Sure.
So the expert is a riff on the rogue, but with feats instead of features.
Right.
And there aren't necessarily features to sell you the things you're not gaining from rogue. So, ultimately this is underdeveloped, but there are additional bonus feats to sell you class features you're missing from, classes other than fighter. So you can buy evasion, and it's just got a prereq. right?
Mm-hmm.
You can buy familiar, favorite enemy, greater sneak attack, improved evasion, improved sneak attack. I'm reading these in alphabetical order, not progression order, people. Sorry.
Right.
Smite evil, sneak attack, turn undead, trap sense, uncanny dodge, wild empathy. So the idea is that you would buy these in place of other feats, and you would have a close enough version of the class concept, just turned into these three classes and nothing more. That's where we are here.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting the way that it works, and the spellcaster can choose from all the spell lists.
Yep.
Which is interesting. It at first glance, it sounds like they're trying to make it simplistic, right? But
right. So the spellcaster chooses to either be an arcane spellcaster or a divine spellcaster. No impact on spells she may learn, but affects what kinds of scrolls she can use and which ability score controls her spellcasting. So yeah.
That's kind of weird. I mean, but I don't know. There's so here's what's this strikes me. This strikes me quite a bit like Numenera with the original three types of characters, right?
Yep.
So I can kind of see this DNA in that kind of design a tiny bit, right? Like it's not by any means, it's not just transferred over directly, but it's definitely an interesting way to try to set up all your classes.
Yeah. And this is an idea that my brain really gravitates toward. In a lot of ways. I don't know off the top of my head how to implement it in fifth. That's actual work to do instead of doing something else. But it really appeals to me as a model of a game where instead of picking all these feats, you establish ways to learn things through work and questing in play. So that, and this is a major thing that that my wife Rabbit talks about as a design goal she wants to see a game pursue, is all earning of new abilities is very explicitly in character and not sort of meta-mechanical.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, you don't build your character with points at the beginning. I mean, you might build a chassis that way, but you don't build level up abilities from the beginning. You build that based on what did you do during the game.
Right.
Yeah, I love that idea. There are some sort of smaller press games that have a similar kind of, but they don't use. But at the same time, they're not class based games, so it's not like the thing with D&D is because it's so class based. Your level up just traditionally gives you a ton of class based things, new abilities, bonuses, whatever. And so if you try to design that, if you try to design into that a way to change what's available or change the strength of the increase in the use of that ability based on what was done in game, yeah, that's I like that idea, but it sounds like a paperwork nightmare for the DM.
Well, I mean, the really like the gimme example here to me is, wouldn't it be cool if paladinhood were earned on camera in the course of play through exercise of virtue?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Through exercise of maintaining the oath and upholding the values of the same thing with clerics, right? Like cleric is my favorite class in pretty much every edition of D&D. Not because I'm particularly a religious person, but because I find the concept of the interaction with a divine power to affect the mortal world through the character fascinating.
Yeah.
and quite powerful, but I feel like that should be a part of progression, and it's not.
Yeah, I agree with that. And if you look over at Shadow of the Demon Lord and their progression from you have your four, I think they call them base classes or core classes, to a wider number of classes at mid tier, to a huge number of classes, each of which have 2 parent classes at a top tier. Like there's a similar expression of concept going on.
Right, and you're bringing to mind Warhammer Fantasy, because you have the careers that you go into when you level up. You can start picking pieces of the different career professions or whatever, depending on the edition.
For sure,
but
and those are all things that they're very appealing for. Who your character is tells the story of who they were. Right, like each piece of the story points to each other piece of the story. That's pretty cool. Anyway,
well, was it you I was talking to on Twitter the other day about the backgrounds in D&D 5th edition have a big hole in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Like the background either tells you what you did before you became an adventurer, or it tells you what you're currently doing.
Right. Yeah, I would frame that as who you were, or what you are when you aren't specifically coming together in groups to stab with friends.
Right. But the thing that's left out is the piece in the middle of, well, how did you get to the point where you're being an adventurer?
Right. Though, I mean, hanging a whole background on a single inciting incident works for the folk hero, but it's not for every background. Right.
But that's, that's what I'm saying too. And it also doesn't ever Anyway, that's a 5th edition thing. Let's go back to let's go back to this is why it's 3 episodes now.
Look, dude.
So what about this intrigues you so much that it stuck with you all these years?
Well, among other things, this is the really clear sort of point back to the original D&D model, right? Setting aside elves, dwarves, and halflings as racist class, this is, fighting man, magic user, thief.
Right.
Except that they joined cleric and magic user into spellcaster. I would probably put forth some work to put everyone on a D8 hit die somehow, because ultimately it would be fine. Right? And I find the whole deal of this spellcaster isn't a good cleric because they have a D4 hit die. Well, that's especially tedious to me. So I try to massage for that in a way that this text doesn't, but that's me second guessing the designers. Something I do for fun all the time. And this also factors into some of the other content that shows up in this book. For example, they have Bard and Ranger and Paladin somewhere, I think. Yeah, and Paladin as prestige classes. Right? They're presented as potential prestige classes. And that's pretty cool, since, as every school child knows, Bard was the original prestige class in 1st edition.
Right.
Since all and sundry have read my history of the Bard series on tribality, space, right? We all know that in 1st edition, the Bard required between 5 and 7 levels of fighter, followed by between 5 and 7 levels of thief, followed by between 5 and 7 levels of druid, I might have Thief and Druid in the wrong order, but I don't review my own work, 5 years later. So what can you do? Point being, you have to go through this enormously elaborate process to be allowed to start being a bard in
Right.
first ed. And so it carries prestige as a demonstration of effort.
Right.
And there's a whole side story about how weird all of that is, but let's go back to the book that we're actually talking about. I just think that those classes, because they are intrinsically multi-class concepts, are interesting in a generic class world. In a world where there are only fighters, experts, and spellcasters, and you can multi-class, where you're expert and spellcaster to reach a concept, but then in the whole pattern of this prestige class is intrinsically multi-class, you then sort of get paid back for the unpleasantness you went through in multi-classing to get there. So if it took, let's say, X many levels of fighter and X many levels of wizard to do that as fast as possible, well, now the first couple levels of the prestige class, or the whole run of the prestige class, are a little bit goosed up in power. That's absolutely a thing in 3.5. The Mystic Theurge being the most famous of examples, where you take 3 levels of your arcane side class and 3 levels of your divine side class to qualify for the prestige class. From that point forward, every level of the prestige class advances your spellcasting in both sides by 1. That's phenomenal in 3rd. I don't know what else to tell you. It's completely unbelievably good. And so you don't have as high a level spell. Fine. You know what? Just cut that. It's fine.
Is it too good?
The Mystic Theurge?
Yeah.
That is a really complicated question. That is a super complicated question. In the general opinion, I think if you polled everyone who had anything to do with the class or looked at it real hard, they would say, oh, hell yes, it is extremely overpowered. I think that there's a pretty involved argument to be made that the way it stops you from having the highest tier of spells that you could have at any time, because you're functionally 3 spellcaster levels lower in both classes, right? So you don't have the highest level stuff. It's always going to be delayed for you. That's a huge balancing factor, especially casting our minds back to how 3rd ed worked when you have multiple slots of your highest level spell. Like if it were 5th, where once you have 6th level spells, it takes a really, really long time before you get your second 6th level spell in a day. Same for 7th, and then you never get another 8th level spell per day or another 9th level spell per day.
Right.
That's not a thing.
Yeah,
well,
you're one and done. That's it.
You're one and done. And that lets them make those really, really special in principle. Sorry, weird, but whatever, I digress. So it isn't quite as big of a deal to not have one uber trick per day. Well, if it's a 2 or 3 times per day thing, especially because you've got a really high ability score to give you another of that thing per day, it matters. It's a really big deal. Maybe. It sort of depends on how you were planning to do stuff anyway. So that's a really complicated question, and I'm not really the best person to ask.
Your answer is yes, it's way too overpowered until it isn't, right? Until you hit that level where it sort of doesn't progress anymore.
So I never had any Mystic Theurges in games that I played, and the one time I saw a Mystic Theurge in action was in a run of Rise of the Rune Lords, and that Mystic Theurge was extremely not okay, but in part that's because the player had figured out how to ruthlessly game the ready action economy in 3.5, so that when you're facing a caster, you're always readying actions to cast a spell in response to them casting a spell. So not only do you cast your spell, you also counter their spell by doing damage to them during their casting.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're a large party fighting a single enemy,
Right.
well, that goes one way. Because you have the action economy advantage, you're just locking the enemy down by just delaying your action to happen in your off turn. Whoa. Right. So anyway, that was a really interesting encounter to get to watch, and a real education for me in things that can go wrong with readied actions and reactions, and that whole off turn timing thing, and also like what constitutes interrupting a spell.
Right.
I think there are a lot of really subtle rules in 5th that are about cutting out that design space of not only do I counter, I'm also the one who gets the spell through.
Right.
There's a new problem, of course, which is counterspell, but I digress.
Yeah, as you do.
Would anyone like to hear about Unearthed Arcana 3.5? I hope so, because it's what we're here to talk about, I think.
Maybe next episode.
Sure, why not? So right. I do want to start with some actual coverage of Chapter 1. So it's races by biome, environmental racial variance for dwarves, elves, gnomes, goblins, half-elves, half-orcs, halflings, humans, kobolds, and orcs. Why those? Who knows, dude? That's a great question.
Because somebody had already had an idea in mind for how to make them.
Right. And so we go through aquatic, Arctic, desert, jungle, yeah, and that's it. And since there was a recent whole thing about orcs and presentation of orcs in D&D, well, as late as 2004, it was still very firmly the bad old days. I don't know what to tell you. But the whole point of that conversation was, man, Volo's Guide to Monsters sure was the bad old days still. Great.
Yeah.
So all of these are how you would adjust the racial features of these races to be customized to that biome. And I mean, aquatic is super stripped down, since there's a general bullet point list of aquatic racial traits that everyone's going to have, and then how those vary for each individual race. For example, aquatic elves don't have gills. They're the one that don't have gills, which I can only assume is a canon nod to the many, many, many races of aquatic elves that have been released over the years.
I'm looking at
and as is sort of customary,
half elf.
aquatic half elf has gills, gets an improved swim speed.
I find interesting.
Yeah. Loses their racial bonus in gather information checks, and gains a racial bonus in survival checks, which is part of the story that that 3.5 is trying to sell on how half elves are not just sort of a mix and match of elf features and human features.
Mm-hmm. I love the picture there on. I know that's bad podcasting to talk about the picture, but the picture by Crabapple, D Crabapple. I don't know who that is. On page 8 of what I think is supposed to be a piranha or something.
Maybe it's a piranha. I'm not really sure. It looks to me like it, might be some horror of the deeps. Who knows?
Could be, yeah. Anyway, what do you think about these aquatic traits? Like when you look at this list of traits that these all of these aquatic races have. Anything surprising, anything interesting, anything jump out as, oh yeah, that's, something that makes you think twice about it?
I mean, right out the gate, not exactly. There's a lot of, yeah, of course, that's an obvious thing, or okay, you're making some canon assumptions here that are a little strange, but sure. Like aquatic gnomes don't have a racial bonus on attack rolls against kobolds, but retain their bonus against goblinoids. Well, right. You have both aquatic goblins and aquatic kobolds, so what? And they only have 2 paragraphs of flavor text to describe what they're trying to do with aquatic gnomes, so
right.
We'll never know.
Right. It feels like more of a balancing exercise than an actual let's really make the aquatic gnome flavorful and different. It's more like, yeah, okay, here it is, and oh well, we got to take away something because otherwise it doesn't really match the ability of the other classes we're making or races.
Yeah, and that it probably is a sense of, well, we're giving them this stuff, we need to edge off a few other things, sure. So I don't know. It doesn't feel super special or different to me. I mean, the aquatic human only gains, right? They also gain a swim speed of 30 feet, in addition to the aquatic subtype, and presumably it can breathe underwater. They also gain low light vision. That's their thing. They have low light vision in addition to being a human. Well, sure, I guess. Yeah. Like, it doesn't. I don't know. It's kind of, so the difference between an aquatic human and a Triton is what? Just maybe I could, but the point is, this isn't developed for a setting specifically. This is scattershot ideas, and that level of development just isn't done. Like, they're not trying to say that it's fully baked. It's instead ready for you to take and apply seasoning.
Right. So that's kind of a good point, right? That if you're going to be using these, you're going to do it in maybe a homebrew setting or something anyway. And this is meant to be something to give you a baseline of here's how you might make these different in your setting, and you can make whatever changes other than this that you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And we go through this, and my other big takeaway is, oh, right, in 3.0 and 3.5, there's a huge sense that a +2 to a certain type of skill roll is an interesting feature.
Yeah.
And that's going to continue into 4th. Like, that 10% better chance of success is a really super common type of feature. A small extra bonus. Well, there's a reason that all that got dropped for advantage on in 5th, and it's because it just isn't super engaging to have +2 to 3 different things or whatever.
Well, and to be honest, when you have a listing that only has, one paragraph, and then a couple of sentences about what part of the racial traits from the PHB you still retain, and then a bullet pointed list of some other items based on the biome here. That's not a lot of room to do that. You know what I mean? Like it's really not. Then it does make it so that the most interesting thing is the +2, and it becomes a math exercise and a number that you write on your character sheet, and then there's no real way to, unless you're really super into it and you build your background around the reasoning of why you have this or why your people have this bonus, then it doesn't really come into play other than, okay, that bonus is part of that equation.
Yeah. Looking forward into Arctic dwarves, I mean, their ability score adjustments are a kick in the teeth.
Yeah, -4 dexterity.
Yeah. +2 strength, +2 con, great. -4 dex, -2 charisma. Woof. That is...
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's interesting that the general Arctic racial trait is just a +4 bonus on fortitude saves to resist the effects of cold weather or exposure.
Right.
It's not resistance to cold damage.
Right.
That's kind of fascinating in what it doesn't do. Because I'm now very familiar with 5th, where there is a 900% chance that it would be you gain resistance to cold damage.
Right.
Done.
Right. Now, when you were playing 3.5, did you have, they did those environment books, so like one of them was Sandstorm about desert biomes and Frostburn
and
or
Stormwrack.
So I had those. I even wrote a review on the storm on the desert one, but I don't remember what it's been literally a decade since I did that, so I don't remember what the racial differences were in that book, and if it was I guess what I'm getting at is, this is sort of, here are these biomes, here's how you might fiddle with the bonuses and give a couple of traits to make that class fit that setting. I'm just wondering how much of that, I can't remember if those environment books came before or after this, I guess is what I'm saying.
Oh, they would have been after this. They might have been in development at sort of similar times, but they were definitely after this. They came out as I was tapering off of being a buy every book, every single book, every single book collector of 3.5.
Right.
And I remember thumbing through a lot of those at the bookstore when I was on my break, right? And then never quite believing that I would use them enough to buy them. And just not feeling the hook of that content.
Yeah. See, as a biologist, I was fascinated by the idea of having this book that supposedly prepares you to run in a biome that is not necessarily, the standard PHB character is not necessarily suited for. So what do you do? Like that, that fascinates me.
Sure.
But I don't. I titled my review "The Desert That Isn't Dark Sun."
Yeah.
But just to answer the question I actually asked, Frostburn was 2004. Sandstorm, Stormwrack were 2005, Sandstorm and Stormwrack.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
Cityscape 2006, Dungeonscape 2007.
Cityscape I do have.
Yeah. So that's the skinny on that. So yeah, so all of them after this UA content.
Yeah, and I mean by 2007, I was there at Gen Con in 2007 when they announced, so we're doing a new edition, and here's what's going on. So I had definitely stopped buying by then. I had I'd moved to North Carolina, and I was running a 3.5 based game that was really heavily hacked because that's who I am. Like all of the long-term games I've run are ones that replace all of the races aside from humans and really change up a bunch of the magic and such to just be whatever I feel like doing for that one setting.
Yeah.
So right. I don't know that there's going to be a ton more to really dig into for each expression of each race throughout the different biomes. Like, it's kind of interesting as a cultural thing to talk about how jungle elves trade out the weapons that all elves are proficient in for a different set of weapons. Their weapon weapon proficiency feature offers hand axe, rapier, short sword, and short bow. Yeah, as opposed to is it long sword, short sword, short bow, long bow.
Right.
So I mean that's kind of a cool thing, but in general these are recapitulating a lot of the same stuff. It's cool to have jungle halflings do some different stuff culturally, just to like help remind you that they aren't Shire folk.
Right.
I'm not digging too much into any of these. I'm sure my eyes glazed over at this when I first read the book. I promise they did.
Yeah.
And so here we are again. It's been 16 years, and it still is a work of fortitude for me to dig into each of these and extract anything from them. I mean, boy, it takes a real beast of a paragraph to explain the jungle goblin's climb speed. I don't know, man. And like, I love that the jungle half elf, its feature is, so you have some post-traumatic stress disorder from the stress of being mixed race in society. Have fun. That's your thing. You have hypervigilance because you're mixed race.
Yeah.
Good luck. Really?
I mean,
guys.
it's so what I was going to say was that this is formatted exactly like I would expect it to be formatted for a 3.5 book, but unfortunately, it's look. There's not enough written on any of these races or racial variants to make it interesting enough for me to read, right? To really like want to dig in and read it. And the bonuses and the traits are not, like you were mentioning, like the goblin. It's the jungle goblins are territorial, tree-dwelling savages with a sadistic streak a mile wide. Their skills at climbing and moving from tree to tree, combined with their cunning and vicious nature, cause even other goblinoids to respect them. Like, okay.
Well, I mean, Jungle Goblins opens with, if monkeys were evil and could speak. Jungle Orcs opens with, if gorillas were evil and could speak.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so, it's a thing.
It's a thing.
But so let's move on from this section then.
Right. So after that, we get Genasi, but
not
different.
Yeah, Genasi, but not. Yeah.
Right. So races of air, earth, fire, water, and then the half races of same.
Right.
Um,
Which get, if it's possible, even less than what the what the ones in the live fiction get. Just
well, and that's because it's identifying each race with only one element.
mm-hmm.
It's not, here's a fire elf, here's a water elf, here's an earth elf. And let me tell you, Baskin Robbins' 31 Flavors of Elves has been a guiding concept in LARPing in the South for most of my career in that field. So
nice.
I have some sympathy for doing that. I digress. But so it identifies gnomes and goblins as air-connected races, kobolds and dwarves as earth-connected races. Which, by the way, thank you for remembering that kobolds in mythology are an underground race tied to mining.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, then elves and hobgoblins as fire races, which is kind of fascinating, but they're actually sort of going somewhere with that, which is kind of cool. And orcs and halflings as water races, which, sure, I guess. It's kind of weird, but sure.
Yeah.
And so that, like, I like this a lot more than I like the biome variants, because this is a section I could hang the whole expression of a setting on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could run with this and have a really good time. And they're kind of doing a each element has a good expression and a bad expression. Well, I don't like that as much, because I would like them to both be explicitly good and bad, and fine, whatever. But I just really like goblins. I don't know what to tell you. Also, my next character concept is an orc.
Yeah.
But there's something kind of cool going on here in imagining a setting that's constrained in that way. I would definitely revisit this and explore it as the base assumption of a setting. Oh man, the next section. Yeah, I break out in hives just reading it. So, reducing level adjustments.
Yeah.
So, all right. If you didn't play 3.0 and 3.5, let me see if I can do this quick. So, if your race had too many features to be on a power level with the core player's handbook races, it instead had a plus EL. I think that's anyway a plus level adjustment is the relevant thing here. So a level adjustment was, for example, as a first level character, you can't take these races. As a second level character, if you start at second level, you could instead be a tiefling who is a first level character, because a tiefling is a +1 level adjustment race.
I see.
And so on for all the +1 level adjustments, like Aasimar and all the Genasis and so on.
Right.
One of the major effects of this is to sharply discourage those using those races, because it's not worth it.
Right.
It's never worth it. Oh my goodness, is it not worth it? Because your racial features just don't scale with you in a way that keeps them useful into the mid game. But they do make sure that you don't have any survivability in the early game where you are so fragile anyway. So yeah, this is basically addressing that issue by creating a mechanic for your level adjustment to taper as you go up.
Yeah.
Which is a good idea by itself, right? It still means that you have a survivability problem at the lowest levels. I mean, imagine being a +2 level adjustment race. Everyone else is 3rd level and is cruising with, we'll call it 20 to 25 hit points. Congratulations, you have 8.
Yeah.
Good game.
Yeah.
By the way, you hard die at -10. Good game.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. That was just this is attempting to address a really messy part of 3.0 and 3.5. It is a good effort, but doesn't go far enough. In my considered opinion of just scanning it again for the first time in at least at least 12 years,
Yeah.
probably more like 15.
Right.
Like for instance, a 2nd level Null Fighter ECL 5, who later gains a 3rd class level as a minimum of 15,000 XP, his ECL has just gone from 5 to 6. Well, you're saying he's adventuring with a 5th level party, and he's got probably about 20 hit points. Rough. Like, I don't care what features he has. If it isn't hit points, how did he even get this far? And so yeah, I've beat this horse enough for now.
Well,
but I love that on the surface, this trade-off may look like a bad deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, accurate.
I mean, the thing is, like, it's only not a, well, it's still a bad deal either way, but that only works if everybody in the party is doing that level adjusted class thing or level adjusted race thing.
Right. And if everyone is a +1 level adjustment or has other stuff to balance your +1 level adjustment, no problem. It's great. No issues. It's just, in theory, you should be fighting stuff that is a CR higher.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Anyway, this is a fine reminder of why this design model did not survive into 4th.
Right.
It's also just really clunky and hard to use. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, it's like take out your calculus textbook and do these
Right.
differential equations, calculate the ECL, and yeah. And then we get to bloodlines.
Right. And, as a Birthright fan, I'm heartbroken that this isn't. So here's how you run Birthright in 3rd ed. But Birthright.net was here for me all those long, dark years.
Yeah.
God bless them. But anyway, this is it's a nod to a lot of different. I have some monstrous ancestry along with my PC race ancestry. Right. See, Celestial Demon, Devil, Doppelganger, Black Dragon. Well, all the Baskin-Robbins flavors of dragons. Right. Doing fine there. Elementals, sure. Yep, that makes sense. It's another way to be a Genasi. Mm-hmm. Sure.
Right.
Genies, technically another way to be a Genasi.
Right.
That's the Genasi story. Mm-hmm. Sure. Giant. Well, like, as the guy who wrote In the Company of Giants, I can definitely respect. I want to be giant blooded. Mm-hmm. That's fine.
Yep. Yes. Gith or Nick.
Yeah. The Gith as a bloodline hurts my brain.
Yeah.
Because no, just play a Githyanki.
Right.
It's fine.
Yeah.
There'd be nothing wrong with being a mixed race Githyanki. That's fine. But this comes across weird to me. I don't know. As a progressive bloodline, it feels weird because it feels like you should just have a subrace that is half Githyanki.
Right. Well, that's the thing, right? Like, if you respect the origin of the Gith at all,
Yeah.
it doesn't even make sense.
Well, right. Like, splitting Githyanki and Githzerai here is just nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
There's not some kind of genetic distinction. That's not a thing.
Right.
It's all distinction through training. Yeah. Okay. Well. Yeah. Just you just need a half race. Like they're just people.
Right.
They're not a mystically powerful thing like an elemental or a dragon. They're just people. Like write a half Githyanki or half Githzerai if you gotta, but just call it a half Gith because let's be real. I don't know. It bugs me. It doesn't fit what I think the cosmology and canon should be there.
Yeah. Which is why it's in this.
So anyway,
to be honest, but
well, sure. So hag, like hagborn is totally a thing in Unapproachable East,
right.
Or Spellbound, the box set from second edition.
Mm-hmm.
Lycanthrope, it's shifters, cool.
Yeah.
Minotaur, actually for Minotaur again, I go to guys. They're just people.
Yeah.
They're really just people. It's not a mystical bloodline. They're just people. Ogre, same. Slod, gross, just gross. Titan, okay, sure. Troll. I mean, I played too much Earth Dawn to not see this as trolls are just people.
Yeah.
They're just like jerks sometimes, except they're fine in Earth Dawn.
Right.
Vampire. I guess we have a name for this. It's called Dhampir. Good, but we don't name drop that here for some reason. And then Yuan-Ti, again, they're people.
Yeah.
They're just people. Like, unless you're gonna have a bloodline for elf sitting alongside half elf, then a lot of these don't belong here to me.
Right.
It's just my take, guys. Anyway, there's then a bunch of tables that factor into this, and guidelines for making your own new bloodlines and how abilities are distributed with that and so on. And all of these have different ways of expressing for minor, intermediate, or major bloodlines. Some of them can only be minor or whatever, but yeah. They give you varying numbers of features depending on how much you've sunk into them.
Right.
Which is fine. But not my favorite section. And racial paragon classes aren't going to be it either, to be honest. Like, I'll go ahead and tell you the very next section. Okay, so during 3.0 and 3.5, so Monty Cook went and released his own game, Arcana Unearthed, in 3.0, which then became Arcana Evolved in 3.5. Thanks for that naming scheme, Malhavoc.
Right.
Oh my god. But a huge thing in those is all the races having paragon levels. Like, you are a pure expression of a giant or a sprite or Feyan or whatever the other races in that are. And that's fine. I I'm not wild about them. Because they're multi-classing, they're really delicate trade-offs, and you have to have a high level of system mastery to make good decisions, or just accept that your build might make no sense.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Becoming a Paragon Giant is a horrible idea for a spellcaster, which is crappy. It should be great for them, but it's not. So anyway, this is doing a lot of the same thing, while also a bit of a backward nod to OD&D's races class.
Right.
Since the Elf Paragon gains spellcasting levels as a wizard for 2 of its 3 levels.
Okay.
What I do like about this is the conceptual space of, maybe I did some additional quests to, become more elf than elf in some magical way. What should I get for that? Well, these are some good ideas for what you should get for that.
Right.
And so I think that's pretty cool. Elf Sight is a neat idea in that sense. The actual mechanical expression is a little okay, fine. It's a bonus to search and spot, and better range and low light vision. Fine. But as far as that goes, this is pretty cool stuff. Then there's Half Dragon Paragon, because the game isn't yet calling them Dragonborn. But to me, in a real sense, this is a road marker toward Dragonborn or a core race.
Right. And then you get to Orc Paragon.
Sure. It's also interesting to me to see what human Paragon is going to be, since it's one of the guiding principles of D&D that humans can be anything, and we're not going to tell you even what that means conceptually. They just have more choice points than other people.
Right.
And so that's what it is here, right? Human Paragon is incredibly powerful because adaptive learning lets you get around the out of class skill thing for one skill.
Yeah, my favorite table with all the capital C's and lowercase C's and
yeah. Oh yeah. Boy. And then a bonus feat, and an ability boost, and spellcasting for 2 of its 3 levels. Yeah, that's real stinking good. Of course it is.
And 4 plus int mod skill points.
Yeah. Unless you really want to be a very pure spellcaster, and that's absolutely your deal, you should probably pick this up. I don't see why you wouldn't. Orc Paragon getting rid of light sensitivity for you is good, but you shouldn't have had it in the first place, so whatever. And yeah, plus 2 bonus weapon damage against elves. Screw elves. Apparently, I don't love Paragon races. I think that as a few more data points in what they think a refined expression of that race is like, it's interesting, but as something to actually use, no, not for me.
Yeah, once again, it feels like if you were going to make a setting where each race had this sort of Uber model, almost like these are the people that are going to ascend and become immortal. Like this is your Achilles, right? Almost divine parentage. Here is what you get for being the paragon of your entire race. You are the embodiment of all of the qualities of your race, and they are imbued into you in such an extraordinary fashion that you exude them and you express them with many more bonuses than others of that same race that are not paragons. And I could see that being a pivot point for a setting if you specifically wanted to make a setting that really used this set of rules here on these 3 or 4 pages to try to distinguish the races from each other, or to distinguish some sort of, I don't know, ruling council or something. You know what I mean? Like, I could see
Sure.
that being a thing. But on the other hand, it's again, I don't find it as interesting, right? It's sort of the same.
Yeah.
I have the same problem with this as I have with the Arctic and aquatic and desert species that they talked about earlier, right? That's just not.
Right.
It's not all that compelling. I hate to say it. It really just, when you read all the descriptions of what it's just like you're the human, you're the best human. You're the orc, you're the best orc. You're the elf, you're the bestest elf of ever elves there were.
Well, right, and the sidebar talks about the prevalence of racial paragons can reflect the importance of racial issues. In campaigns where tensions run high between the civilized races, each race is more likely to have a large number of racial paragons among its members. Wait. So this is how white supremacy gets in? No, screw this. This is dumb.
Yeah.
This is no.
It talks also about paragon classes in a setting. It says, for example, in a setting in which elves and dwarves have all but died out, the traditions of the racial paragon classes might have been lost. However, in the same campaign, humans, half-orcs, and halflings all could thrive, and powerful NPCs of these races might frequently have a level or 2 in the appropriate paragon class. Like, that just sort of waters it down, though.
Well, right, and dealing with this idea is cool if you are going to rigorously stat all of your NPCs by class and level.
Right.
Is extremely 3035 thinking.
Right. Yeah.
With which we have little to no more truck.
Right.
Thank you.
And we departed from that, and happily so.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. All right. Well, that pretty much brings us to the end of that chapter.
Right.
So,
and we've already covered a decent portion of chapter 2, though definitely not all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we're going to stop there. We did the introduction. We talked about sort of the theme of the book and the background of the book, and then we covered chapter 1. So, if you're a frequent listener to the Edition Wars podcast, you know that we've done a pretty good job tonight. But I suspect we have another 2 episodes of this book, maybe plus. Depending. And so we're gonna take another look at this in our next episode, and it will be covering probably chapter 2 and 3, maybe.
Let's hope, man.
Let's see if we can. Let's see if we can do that, and then the next would be 4 and 5, and then, well, I guess then there'd have to be another episode after. Yeah, so we're going to get through it at our own pace. We're trying to have episodes around an hour, maybe an hour and 20 minutes. So we might end up with 4 episodes of this, and I'm okay with that. Just want to set your expectations.
In fairness, our audience is in quarantine, so they have nowhere to be.
That's true. Yes, that's true. And I think people did really enjoy the Edition Wars Christmas special, where we took a deep dive into different books. So that's part of the reason why we're doing this, is kind of a test run of doing that format for different edition. So we'll see how that works out. So without further ado, I think we will close out the episode, and thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next time.